You are now entering the world of Musings of a Geek podcast network. Stay geeky, my friends.
Welcome to History of Bad Ideas, episode number 40. I'm Jason.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Nick.
Nick is here. Look at that. Yes, so we are not from the Bob Studios right now. We are at the Miamitown Paranormal Festival.
Yes, on location. They gave us a nice little table here so we can see all the fun activities going on.
People can give us goofy looks as they walk by.
Oh, yeah. And
no different from when they're outside the Bob Studio looking through the glass, right?
That's true. Dr. Number One isn't here, though, yet. So we're kind of happy about that.
I think I saw him out in the bushes.
Oh.
He's got better camouflage out here, I think.
I think it was just a raccoon or a squirrel. Squirrel. So, so thank you, Miamitown Paranormal Festival, for inviting us. We're excited. And this episode, actually the next couple episodes, could be a little bit different than our previous ones and our regular, scheduled program.
Regularly scheduled programming.
So
will be eliminated.
Let's see. We are on musingsofgeeknetwork.com. We are on Geek Life Radio every Friday at 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Yep, 8 a.m. Pacific? No, 8
5
a.m.
a.m.
Mountain.
Yeah, 5 a.m. Pacific.
No, 5 of Hawaii.
Whatever. So yes, 9 a.m. Central.
Central
10 a.m.
China.
Eastern. What's that?
Central China time.
That would be 2 p.m. I don't know that.
No, it's probably
2 a.m.
All China time is the same.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Listener feedback from
Number one fan, Doug.
Can't give yourself a nickname. With the new Batman stamps coming out in October, just how awesome is the post office?
That sounds like it's written by someone who works at the post office.
I can't confirm nor deny that.
Sounds like a lot of stamps that are going to be produced that aren't going to go on a whole lot of letters.
Oh.
Well, the stamps are pretty much for the collector market for the most part. That's what it is.
I think I may be buying some. They're pretty cool.
Exactly, for the collector market. Are you going to put them on letters after you buy them?
Maybe. Maybe my Christmas cards?
Ooh.
Maybe.
Oh, that would be good.
I might do that. Because really, are they going to be worth anything? Let's think about that.
No, they probably won't. I mean, any collectible they make nowadays is never going to be worth anything unless they're really limited on the production. And stamps won't be limited on production.
No.
So I think anymore isn't the items that are the screw-up items, they don't get sent out anymore like they used to in the past. It's the defects get kept and destroyed. Only the perfect items get sent out. And usually the defect ones were the ones that'd be worth something.
Yeah, especially stamps like the upside-down airplane and things like that.
Except 1990s comic books. Those are worth a lot.
Oh, yeah. They're worth a ton.
And by a lot, I mean 10 cents on the dollar.
They're that high? Oh. They're that high? Wow.
Okay, let's see here. But I will be getting some. From the Ditman. Ditman in the Morning. Okay, with the sequel to the hit Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon time to release on Netflix at the same time, it will be released at the theaters. Are theaters like AMC, Cinemarks being short-sighted and potentially hindering their future showing/sales by boycotting their release?
I kind of feel both sides of the issue because it's like, I mean, most people aren't going to go to the theater if they can get it on Netflix. Mm-hmm. But for those people that do want to go to the theater, I mean, they make their money not on the movie, but they make it on the concession sales and stuff like that. So those people who want to the theater experience don't have that option anymore. So that's tough because obviously it's working fine. That 4 months later you can get it online or something, but I mean I know they want to keep their bread and butter, but times are changing. They got to change with them.
My question is, does anyone care about a sequel to Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon?
Oh, some people do. But especially with this being the test subject for the most part. I mean, maybe, if it was a big blockbuster release, it would be something different, but they want to see how it goes with a minor film before they ruin it on a major film.
Well, speaking of that, we're going to skip to the news of the geek here, little thing that Adam Sandler signed on. Adam Sandler signed on. Yes, we got people coming up to us. We got, let's see here. Sorry. Anyways, Adam Sandler has signed a 4-picture deal for his movies to go straight to Netflix.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, Adam Sandler's films can go straight to the garbage.
Well, I saw a thing on this, and Netflix basically said that they have all of Sandler's films have a very strong viewership through Netflix, so they're kind of trying to expand on that, I think.
Well, that's the way you would watch. I mean, you're already paying for Netflix, so if you wanted to see what that Sandler movie was about without actually paying extra money, Netflix is a perfect place for that.
The problem that I think Netflix is going to have is that the people that are watching the Adam Sandler films are watching the old Adam Sandler films, the original Adam Sandler films, Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, those films over and over again. They're not watching the recent
Jack
Sandler
and Jill.
films. Exactly.
That's my boy.
Oh. Well, the good news is I don't have to see previews for it on TV though, so that's good for the new movies.
So they're not going to the theaters?
No, I think they're going straight to Netflix.
Oh,
so yeah.
I thought maybe they were doing the theater thing too.
No, they're going straight to Netflix, which, hey, perfect for me. I can ignore that in my queue when it comes up, when it's straight in my... Speaking of that, Nick, I heard you're in the 21st century. You got Netflix streaming.
I have. Not only have I gotten Netflix streaming, I've done a lot of 21st century stuff this past month.
Uh-oh.
I've seen, since the last time I was on, I've seen Guardians of the Galaxy. I've seen the Lego movie.
Oh my
gotten
God.
Netflix. I've started watching Orange is the New Black, House of Cards, and Game of Thrones.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Look at you go.
Where are you finding the time?
See, there's an hour and a half between us putting our girls to bed and me actually going to sleep. That's where the time is. I also spent a week on vacation, so...
Okay. That helps.
Nick's going to have to change his top 5 adequate movies of the since 2010.
But to come back to that, I will say, I did, like I said, I watched the Lego movie, and I wasn't overly... It was a good movie, but it wasn't something that I was ecstatic about or something that I would go out of my way to see again.
Oh, you're wrong.
I liked it. I did not like the dreamy, trippy stuff in the beginning. That was annoying. Of course, I hate that in every film that I watch when they do the dreamy, trippy stuff.
You're wrong there.
No.
What dreamy, trippy stuff?
When he touches the magical thing and he goes through like all the different colors are coming at him.
The one that you're wrong on is what's the bowling movie with Jeff Bridges?
The Big Lebowski.
Big
Okay,
Lebowski.
I'll give you that. That was good. I'll give you that. When he's under he's just floating. I'll give you that. Okay. Yes, we got Lego movie for my kid for Christmas. You picked it up for him, Nick.
I did, and that's what I'm. After seeing it, I'm glad we didn't actually buy it.
Oh, wow.
So you
Those
think
insults.
Nick is what Santa Claus looks like?
Nick is Santa Claus. So there you go. Let's see.
Hi, Garrett.
We're all on live. How you doing?
Nah, we're still not being able to get online.
So it's okay, though. It's okay. You're on the air. How you doing?
Now sign this. Well, I have to cut you out then.
You just said hi. Welcome to the show. And now you have to sign your rights. All I came by was just to see how you guys were doing. Tough shit. Get it on.
But this is Garrett. He's one of the organizers of this little shindig.
Yes.
Work at the ghost tour.
Yep, Miamitown Ghost Tours. We have a lot of fun with that. Next year we'll be possibly doing a Groupons. However much you look for that next year.
Oh, Groupons. Everyone loves Groupons.
Yes.
Always gets good prices for everybody.
Excellent. Well, thank you, sir.
Well, thanks, Garrett. Don't be a stranger.
I'll keep stopping around as long as you don't have to keep signing.
You don't have to sign that
one,
anymore.
Just one, and you're good.
You could just walk by and say, yo, and you'll be fine now.
You can be the ghost noise in the background.
Get out.
Get out.
Thank you. So, let's see. Next question from Graphic Novice Nickelback, because he's a big Nickelback fan. How do you like the first Toronto? Take a look at this photograph.
Every time it makes me laugh.
Oh yeah. How did you like why do you like the Toronto Maple Leafs?
How did you first come to like them?
And why? And I think he said the evil Toronto Maple Leafs, actually. But to be honest with you, we did not have many teams growing up in Ohio when I was young.
Many? You mean any?
Okay, any. So I was looking around, and I've always been a big Blue Jays fan. I don't know why. I think it was because my oldest brother liked them too, so he always rooted for them, so I started rooting for them. And I think it just kind of grew into, I like the Maple Leafs too, just because there's no other city around.
They're in the same town.
Instead of picking the right way like myself and just going with the closest geographical team and becoming a Detroit Red Wings fan.
Yeah, can't do that. That just can't happen.
Oh, because I don't want to be a bandwagon fan. We haven't won a championship since the 60s. That's dedication over here.
Yeah, since before you were born.
That's right. Not before Jeff was born, though.
No, it actually wasn't before I was born.
Wow. You look good for 55.
Thank you.
Okay. You may be a ghost soon.
Get out.
Red room. Red room.
Red room, over there. The room, it's red.
I think that was a ghost or a kid. I'm not sure.
Could be both. A ghost kid.
Ooh.
A kid ghost.
Let's see here.
Maybe it's a bear pirate.
And let's see here. Oh, I think Dr. Number One did have a question. Let's see what it is.
Oh, yeah, bring that up on the tweeters.
If I were to chip a TARDIS mug in the break room, should I leave it or own up to it? Please remember, I'm a bastard.
Oh, well, leave it.
Leave it. It's a TARDIS mug.
Yeah, you put it in the sink and walk away.
Yes.
I'll wash it off so you don't get any fingerprints.
Why are you using a TARDIS mug is my question.
He didn't say he was using it, he just chipped it.
Oh, okay. He saw it and just started breaking it?
He could have purposely broke it. He could have...
I could see that. Let's see here. And he said, who said I wasn't sending questions in? Well, now you just did, so thank you.
Yes, Jason called Dr. Number One out on Twitter, and Dr. Number One's response was, well, now I'm tweeting, so who said that?
Nick, thank you for coming out without the ball gag.
Hey, no problem. I'm just glad I don't have the Casio this week. I've got the real drum roll.
I almost brought the Casio. But I just didn't think we would have enough room.
Yeah,
especially once Blake gets here.
Yes,
because we're all going to be a little tight here in a second.
One big happy family.
That's right. Okay, so there's your listener feedback.
It's time for a paranormal installment of the News of the Geek.
We really don't have any paranormal news.
Oh, but that's the installment.
Unless we could play this back and there's some EVPs.
Well, there could be.
Let's see here. Regarding the I think that was Nick.
Oh.
Get out. Regarding the Fantastic Four movie, schmonose.com have come through with some potential spoilers regarding Michael B. Jordan and Kate Mara playing siblings Johnny and Sue Storm.
All right, spoiler alert.
Yes. Well, we have heard from our source that it's actually Mara Sue Storm who's adopted in the film, with her and Michael B. Jordan's parents being African American, says the source. Okay.
All right. Yeah.
That's exciting. No one cares.
Oh, but wait a minute. The black family is adopting the white kid. That's so different than how things normally
And
go.
nobody cares. I like that they have to address it because you have some people so worried, oh, it's not like the comic books. No one cares about the comic book.
Yeah. It's like the comic book is just the basis for the movie. That's every movie we've ever seen.
And again, no one cares about the Fantastic Four.
Somebody does.
Where?
I don't know.
Michael
Canada?
Chiklis?
I think Nickel does. He keeps trying to talk about all the back issues.
I thought Canada only cared about Captain Canuck.
Captain Canuck.
And Alpha Flight.
Alpha Flight, yes.
Yep.
So, let's see. They will get their superpowers. The team will gain their powers through a lab experiment gone wrong in a way where they create a portal to another world or dimension, and they get their powers after the exposure to this other dimension.
So they're not going into space?
I
They're
guess
just
not.
Opening a dimensional portal.
I still say they should do it by the Roger Corman film, and I think that was the definitive Fantastic Four movie.
Certainly, even though the only people who have seen it bootlegged and illegally.
That's a lot of people that have actually seen it, though. Let's be real.
Well, I think it's on YouTube. So.
You can go to any convention and you can get a copy. Supposedly, I may have, but I'm just saying that it's a great film. It's more.
It is great for the cheese factor. I mean, that is an ultimate cheesy film.
Mr. Fantastic's arms.
That's pretty much what the only thing on him that really stretched throughout most of the movie, wasn't it? Like he made his arms go.
Stretched throughout. Oh, never mind. You weren't making a pun.
I wasn't. Where was the pun?
I don't know.
Oh.
Thank you, Nick.
For the non-existent pun.
Let's see here. Let's see.
Hey, you guys!
Yes, in an interview with Hey You Guys, Dracula Untold producer Alyssa Phillips reveals that while it wasn't originally the plan when they started to work on the movie, Dracula Untold is indeed the first step in Universal's planned shared universe for classic monsters like Frankenstein, Wolfman, Creature of the Black Lagoon, Invisible Man, Bride of Frankenstein, and The Mummy. And there's an extra scene at the end of the movie which hints at future installments.
All right. Also, Dracula Untold is part of that. Okay.
It wasn't going to be. It is now.
Oh, it wasn't originally going to be. Okay.
So is it going to be called the Monster Mash?
Ooh, the Monster Gang, or what was that?
I don't even remember.
Remember that one, though? When they had all the monsters team up?
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Well, I'm just...
I remember it existed, but...
Jeff didn't see it. It doesn't exist. It doesn't matter.
Thank you, Nick.
He can't judge it. He didn't see it.
I didn't see
America.
it. I can't judge it.
America.
Oh, wait. F that. America.
America.
It sucks.
Does anyone care that all these monsters are teaming up eventually?
Somebody does. I think maybe a lot of people here might.
I don't know. I like the creature from the Black Lagoon.
We should ask if we get someone to stop by, ask what they
And see if
feel
they care.
about. See if they care about the
Because they're trying to do it like
Universal
a
monsters.
Avengers movie. So are these guys all going to be good?
Oh, they can't be.
So is the Invisible Man, is that just going to be the one that walks around with like a fake mustache and the Groucho Marx glasses?
That would be funny.
Actually, they're going safe on an actor. They're not even going to cast anybody. They're just going to have everybody play off of it.
Just a floating
just
set of
fall over,
Groucho
bump
Marx
into
glasses.
something and fall over.
Hey! Maybe Kevin Bacon could do it.
He's tried that once already.
Yes. Twice, I think.
Kevin Bacon did?
He was in the first one. I thought he was in the second one.
I didn't even know they made a second one.
Yes, it was not good. Let's see here. And let's see, we'll go to... We got tons of news of the geek here. Let's see here. We'll talk about Tusk.
Let's talk about Tusk.
I guess we do have some paranormal horrors.
There we go.
Yeah, look at that. Let's see. Kevin Smith spoke on his Hollywood Babylon podcast to defend Tusk, explain how it actually resulted in him getting financing. Tusk opened about as poorly as a movie can open, he said. Honestly, I read a lot of effing pieces the day after that were like utter disaster and shit like that. That I did, as per usual. The people that love me, but the people that effing hate me, hate my guts.
They do.
Yes. Smith said the movies only cost $3 million to make, and when the international and domestic rights to the film were sold, everyone was covered, so the film is in the black.
Yay.
Yeah, because I think it only made $280,000. And if you listened to his latest podcast last week, he was dejected.
I think that was $280,000 in the
That
second
week.
week.
Correct.
That week. It was like $1.4 million or something.
Yeah. And that's not international.
Yeah, no, that's just the domestics.
He added, everything in my life would suck right now if I haven't made that movie. I'm back in movies now. I got 3 lined up, and this is the effing grand news. Tusk was the absolute bridge to Clerks 3. Because of Tusk, I got financed for Clerks 3.
Excellent.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with it too. I just come back to what's he actually doing? Because every time he makes a film or makes a trilogy or does something, it's the last one. It's the last one. It's the last one.
Well, he has officially said that it's not the last one anymore.
So that's good.
He
I mean,
said,
at least
I'll make them if I feel like making them.
Yeah.
I don't need to explain myself to anyone anymore.
I think he said Tusk got him more energized for horror movies in general.
It did. Well, my question is, what's the future of the other Tusk-related
Yoga
movies?
hosers? They're filming now.
Okay.
So it's like, okay.
Well, I know he's talked about, okay, maybe we shouldn't have released it in such a wide... I mean, maybe, cut back on half or even to a third of the screens it was released on. I think they were over-anticipating something there, but I mean...
I can't even find it around us.
I know it's not at the one in my neighborhood, so I haven't even looked at the other ones around. But
I mean, maybe at the artsy art house, maybe?
it's possible. And it might have already left the theaters because 2 weeks with that number pretty much will.
And I thought it was on video on demand. I guess not. So I may. I'll look when I get home. But I would, if it is, I'll get it because I really want to see it. Nick's looking it up now. You find it? Is that the artsy place?
Yeah, I'm looking now to see if it's there. Give me just a sec.
Okay. But I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by Tusk. I think it looks good. I don't know why it bombed so bad.
I mean, I don't know what people were anticipating. I mean, I think people who necessarily didn't follow the story of it were completely repulsed by it. But I mean, it's like, I heard the podcast where they came up with the idea and he kind of just ran with it from there, and it was just fun watching it from start to finish in about a year's time.
Yeah,
from the idea to hitting the theater was I think even just under a year.
Yeah,
it's not up there.
It's not the artsy theater.
The main movies that they're playing is Yimmy, All Is By My Side.
That's Jimmy.
It's Yimmy.
Yimmy.
Hector and the Search for Happiness.
Oh, yeah.
Then they've got another one, Tracks, The Drop, The Skeleton Twins, and Take Me to the River.
Skeleton Twins? Oh, it's the documentary about the Olsons. That's cute.
Did you say Olsons?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I thought you said Orsons. I went, who are
yes,
Orsons?
Orson Welles. He's the opposite of a skeleton. Well, actually, not anymore.
Not
I guess
anymore.
he is.
He probably is a skeleton.
And they just show his casket. That's all it is. So that's not a good sign that Tusk is not even close to us. And we're a major city. Well, one of 30. So there is your news of the geek.
Wow. It's time to grab your balls of fury. It's Plotlines with Jeff and Jason.
Okay, Plotlines is from Nikki at Pumazili. She is giving us Skeleton Man.
Ooh. Now the question about Skeleton Man.
Yes.
Is this going to be a horror movie or is this going to be like some sort of drama, family drama?
I'm thinking eating disorder.
Okay.
I'm thinking it's a doctor or a doctor student with a skeleton, like the skeleton that hangs in the classrooms.
That talks to him?
He's his companion.
Is he alive?
No. Well, the skeleton isn't alive, but the student is. But it's his. He just takes him around with him everywhere he goes. It's like it's like his blanket, his security blanket.
So it's like Mr. Mom's, the kid's blanket. Okay.
It's like Lars and the Real Girl.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. I don't want to see those sex scenes.
I'm thinking, it's a drama about a family man who is like spread thin, like he's got so much stuff to do that he's essentially just his life is just a skeleton because he's got so much going on, wife, kids, work, and I'm going that way.
That's pretty deep.
I thought horror's too obvious, so I'll try and go a different way.
Well, I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going the easy way then. I'll go the horror way since you guys aren't doing it. I'm going to say it's about a guy that, it's in 2004, right?
2004, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say that he gets a haunted house he inherited, goes there, and it's a house that has lots of curses to it or, some bad backstory to it.
Is this house up in New England?
Louisiana.
Oh, it's always New England.
I know, that's why I'm going Louisiana.
Okay.
I'm going to say on the bayou.
All right.
And he has a lake or, whatever they have in Louisiana, I'm not sure, right outside the window. I'm going to say the casket's floating, and they were never at peace. So that's how the ghosts come back. That's what I'm going with.
Skeleton Man, not Ghost Man.
Whatever. I don't care. We're going to Skeleton Man.
I'm thinking about that. I'm going to revise mine a little bit. I'm going to go with the guy. He's got a lot of skeletons in his closet, but he's older and he's trying to turn his life around now. But it always keeps coming back to those skeletons that are in his closets of things in his past.
So not a real skeleton anymore on your...
Literally or figuratively?
Figurative. Okay. Well, it could be both.
Well, he could.
That would be a funny movie if he literally has the skeletons in the closet.
Okay, who's starring in your movie?
Well, Jeff did look it up. It was from 2004. Come back to me.
Okay.
All right. I'm just trying to think what bad actor seemed to be cast in everything in 2004.
I'm going Kate Bosworth.
Okay. I was going to go Aaron Eckhart.
Oh, that's a good one.
Give me an evil male lead, early 2000s, 10 years ago, kind of plays the evil.
Dominic Purcell.
Yeah, I'll go with it.
There, he's going Dominic Purcell. First name I thought of.
All right.
What do we got here, Jeff?
Let me see. It's coming up.
Skeleton Man, 2004.
It is a co-ed group of Special Forces agents search the wilderness for a predator type of creature that has been on a killing spree.
We need Blake here.
It sounds like a fake predator. The scientists Charles and Marissa receive some objects from a skull from an ancient Indian cemetery, and while cleaning a vase, they are attacked and murdered by a mysterious being, the Skeleton Man. The military squad, commanded by Captain Leary, seeks out 2 groups of 4 soldiers each that vanish in the jungle. They face the Skeleton Man, shooting him while he kills each soldier. Then the Skeleton Man goes to the power plant, and Captain Leary explodes the facility, destroying the supernatural being.
Wow.
Okay. Let's see. Stars nobody we've heard of.
Okay.
Jackie Deviton, Eric Etibari.
Did you say Jackie Gleason?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay.
Jonathan
What's up with this
Klein,
chicken soup?
Robert Miano, Timothy V. Murphy, Maurice Nair. I'm guessing this is one of those Australian movies.
New Zealand.
Or New Zealand. We'll see. Nikki, is that one of your hometown movies?
This is a made-for-TV movie?
It got 2 stars.
TV movie.
Oh,
it's a TV movie.
TV movie, okay.
On the Sci-Fi Channel?
Oh, wait a minute. Well, that says Casper Von Diem and Michael Rooker. How far down,
How bad is that Casper Van Dien and Michael Rooker are that far down?
Okay, there's Michael Rooker. I don't even see Casper Von Diem on the cast list, but he's the first name listed on the poster.
Good for him.
Okay. So
That was a good one you could have used, Nick. Casper Van Dien.
Where were you on that one, Jason?
I was looking at Dominic Purcell from Prison Break.
All right, so that was this episode
Plotlines.
of Plotlines.
Okay, a little bit out of order this week, but that's okay. Riddle Me This from John Towers at Johnny Axe, AXX. He also does Red Horse Radio on our Musings Network.
Geek Network.
That's right.
So he's a good guy. Listen to him.
Ex-wrestler, too.
Hold on, you guys haven't announced the new 37 podcast to the network this week.
Oh, that's true.
I don't think there was any new ones this week.
Well, by the time this airs, it might be another 15.
Oh, that's true.
So, I think we have a Smurfs podcast coming up. Everybody thinking about
All
Smurfs.
Smurfs all the time.
Yep.
I think they called it the Blue Man Group.
Oh, boo.
Yeah, I should go back and re-edit that out.
Nope, you can't. Too late. Hold on, Nick's got something coming for you.
You should wait.
Where is it? Where is it?
Oh.
Nick is struggling here. Good job, Nick, on your Casio here.
Oh, we fail.
You should get one for yourself there, too. There you go.
I can hit the whole drum roll.
That was our Riddle Me This episode.
That's the intro to Riddle Me This. We'll have to edit that in for future Riddle Me This.
He has recast the MASH crew with any fictional doctors. Fictional.
Oh, they got to be fictional?
Yes.
Oh, uh-oh.
Well, this should be interesting.
Yeah.
No, maybe not. We could just, sorry, we didn't see that part. No, with
So
any doctors.
Are we doing just the MASH doctors with
Yes.
doctors? Or
Yes.
So no Klinger for...
Correct.
Okay. No Radar?
Yeah, I don't know
Nick, do you have Klinger and Radar?
I
cast?
don't have any of the doctors actually listed from MASH because I wasn't sure which ones we were doing. I just listed a bunch of fictional doctors to fill in the positions.
Oh, okay. Hey, you're higher. You're more prepared than we are. So.
So all the fictional doctors that I just basically pulled out that we could pick from, I pulled up Dr. Nick from The Simpsons.
Oh.
So who would he be good for?
Well, you want let's list out the doctors and we can start
be
pulling.
good for anything, but
We got Dr. Frederick Frankenstein,
Frankenstein? Stein?
Dr. Jekyll,
Ooh.
Dr. Rumek
From Airplane?
from Airplane. Dr. Evil. Dr. Stuart Price. Stu from The Hangover.
Oh, the dentist, okay.
Oh, okay.
I am a doctor. I know, you've told me several times.
Dr. Spangler, Dr. Stans, and Dr. Venkman.
Good ones.
Oh, yeah.
Poor, shoot, who's the last
Winston?
guy? Winston.
He's not a doctor.
No.
He
Well,
can't.
and to follow that then, any of the Big Bang characters except for
Wallowitz.
Wallowitz, Dr. Fraser Crane, or any of the characters from Scrubs.
Ooh.
Ah.
An overrated show, but okay.
Or anybody from General Hospital.
Jeff just got smacked.
I really wanted to put Dr. Noah Drake, Rick Springfield's character
it.
from.
No.
Yes, I'm putting him in there somewhere.
Okay. So who should we draft here? Give us some MASH guys.
We got Dr. Hawkeye Pierce, as portrayed by Alan Alda in the TV show.
Okay.
Dr. B.J. Honeycutt, played by Mike Farrell.
Okay.
Dr. Trapper John, as played by Wayne Rogers. Dr. Weaselface, Frank Burns, as played by Larry Linville. Dr. Charles Winchester, as played by the guy who does the voice of the clock in Beauty and the Beast. And Dr. What's his name?
I don't know.
And yes, Jeff is pulling all these off the top of his head right now. He does not have them up on his computer.
The one played by Harry Morgan. Crap! Now I gotta go into IMDb.
Dr. Henry Reed?
No.
Harriet.
I'm just mad.
The lead guy. Yeah, that's his name.
This is good radio right now.
It is. It's great radio. We could pause while I pull this up.
Okay.
Or we could, oh, come on. Hey, Mr. Morris is here.
Mrs. Morris is here. Thank you for saving us because we're drowning here. We're struggling on a MASH character.
Yes, I'm trying to find something in my... No, thank you for help getting our Wi-Fi working, but I got to be quicker on typing.
He's looking. He's looking.
Colonel Potter, that's what I'm thinking of.
Oh, yeah, Colonel Potter. Colonel Potter! I don't know who any of these guys are.
Mr. Potter.
And...
Okay, now I got the pictures.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you not know who Colonel Potter is? Did you watch MASH?
Not often. So, okay, so let's start doing this. Who are we drafting?
Well, let's go with, we'll just start with Hawkeye, Alan Alda first.
Okay.
He's your lead general. What are we pointing at?
I'm pointing at your mic. You might want to change it.
Oh.
Change it back. There you go.
Change it back.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, yeah, and there was Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake, played by McLean Stevenson.
Okay, I'm just going to look at Nick's pictures here.
Okay.
Okay, let's do Alden Alda. Franklin Pierce.
Hawkeye Pierce.
He did 251 episodes.
Yeah, he did them all.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
But he's your lead and your general wise ass.
I'm going Dr. Venkman.
Yes, Peter Venkman would be a
Okay,
great
put
pick
that down,
for
Nick. There we go. We got Venkman for that.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, his sidekicks, the first couple seasons, his sidekick was Trapper John.
Okay.
And then later episodes, it was B.J. Honeycutt. So...
You're going Trapper John.
He's also more of a smart-ass doctor.
Fraser Crane.
Dr. Rumek, Airplane.
Ooh, Rumack.
I could see that.
Okay, we're going Dr. Rumack from Airplane.
All right.
Trapper John.
So it's Trapper John.
Okay, who's next?
B.J. Honeycutt.
Can we do
played by
B.J. and the
Nick
Bear?
Farrell. Oh, he's not a doctor.
Oh, that's true. Sorry. Dr. Love.
I mean, we could, I don't know, Dr. Quinn, just to mix things up a little.
There we go. Let's do Dr. Quinn. Let's do Dr. Quinn.
B.J. will be Dr. Quinn.
Or Dr. Detroit.
Or Dr. Demento. Oh, he's not fictional.
Damn. Okay, we're doing Dr. Quinn for B.J. Honeycutt. Let me finish that sentence. Who else we got?
We'll have to do Frank Burns. He's he's played by Larry Linville. He's the Weasley, sniveling army guy who's always trying to get everyone else in trouble.
We have a ghost. Let's see.
So who's
Dr.
jerk?
Evil?
Yeah, that might fit.
Yeah, I'm going with that. I'm doing awesome for not really knowing these characters.
Dr. Evil, because he's everyone's nemesis for the most part.
Good job, Nick, on getting all these characters out there.
Then we'll move on to Major Charles Winchester, is played by David Ogden Stiers.
Move up, Nick. Let me see who this is.
He's the big pompous ass who I think Fraser Crane would work for here.
Dr. Winchester on that one?
Yeah, Dr. Winchester is played by Dr. Fraser Crane. Then we got Colonel Potter is played by Harry Morgan.
There's Harry Morgan.
Yeah, he's the older, the leader, the guy who's in charge.
Dr. Frankenstein?
That's who I was thinking of. Dr.
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
We're on there. Look at this. Nick and I are rocking it.
All right, then McLean Stevenson's Dr. Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake. He was the semi-incompetent guy who led them before dying on a helicopter crash.
Oh, okay.
Spoiler alert for people who don't know that 30-year-old
We don't have to
reference.
send a spoiler alert 30 years later.
Spengler?
I was thinking maybe Dr. Nick.
Hi, everybody.
I mean, he's not really as incompetent as Dr. Nick, but I think it would be a lot funner.
Okay.
All right.
We'll go with that, Jeff.
Was there any other doctors we forgot? I think that's our doctors.
Okay.
All right, so our matched doctors.
Our matched doctors are Lieutenant Colonel Blake, being played by Dr. Nick.
Yay.
Colonel Potter by Dr. Frederick Frankenstein. Trapper John, being played by Dr. Rumack. Colonel Burns by Dr. Evil.
That's Major Burns.
Major Burns. I'm sorry, Major.
Major Burns.
Major.
Hawkeye Pierce, being played by Dr. Vankman. Dr. Winchester by Dr. Fraser Crane. And Dr. Quinn playing B.J. Honeycutt.
Ooh.
All right, excellent.
Thank you, John, for the Riddle Me This.
All right, thank you, John.
And this is a little bit of bridge version episode, but that's all right.
Yeah, since we are recording on a Saturday, the box office results are not out yet.
No, they're not.
So we don't have a whole lot of box office news to give.
We do have upcoming movies for October 10th through the 12th. Let's see here. We got Addicted, which I have no idea what that is.
I don't know.
We have Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day, which Kristen at It's Free at Last did say that she liked it.
Yeah.
And it does not look horrible for a kid's film.
I thought it looked horrible.
I like Steve Carell.
I like Steve Carell, and that's the only reason I'm even not ripping it apart
Jennifer
right
Garner
now.
and her non-emotions does not impress me in it.
Hey, no dissing Jennifer Garner.
I don't care if she was in Alias or not. We have Dracula,
wow. Okay.
Dracula Untold.
Part of the Monster series.
Monsters Avengers. And we have The Judge, which is Robert Downey Jr. and the old guy, Robert Duvall.
And the old guy.
And they play father and son, and I guess they're going against each other?
No, I think
they team up?
I think the judge is in legal trouble. And his son, who is estranged or whatever, he's a lawyer and he has to come to defend him, and they don't get along.
Okay,
That's
I gotcha.
what I get out of the commercials for it anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't recognize anything here in Addicted.
Nick, you know anything about Addicted?
Just pulled it up. A gallerist risks her family and flourishing career when she enters into an affair with a talented painter and slowly loses control of her life.
Yeah, it sounds boring.
Yeah, nobody I know. I'm trying to see where it was from.
Wowzers.
The cover that's on IMDb of the movie film is basically a naked woman with a bunch of black bars across it, covering the
Kind of like
the
blinds.
spots that they would want to cover.
Her shoulder.
Yeah.
Elbow. Make sure you cover those.
Wrist.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, the wrist.
I love a sexy wrist.
Yeah. I see that shoulder blade.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
but it stars a bunch of people we've never heard of. So I don't know if this is just a small independent or foreign or what.
It's got a national release because I only do the national release ones. So, okay, well, that's interesting. So that's your upcoming for October 10th through the 12th. And then that's about it. We do not have a top 5 this week. We will be back with one, even though we'll be in Paranormal Festival, we'll be recording our next episode here as well. We will have a top 5 next episode.
Yes.
We're waiting for Blake to get here. So it will be a 4-person panel.
Yeah. Well, before Blake gets here, I suppose we can talk trash about the Musings of a Geek football league.
Yes, I am 4-0 in that.
Yeah, you're the one who should be trashing talk.
Because,
trashing talk?
Yes. Because I'm sorry, but I drafted most of the Bengals and I am winning.
Yes, even when they were on bye.
And I didn't even start Mike Ryan in his best game. I still beat Bob Holt.
Well, no offense to Bob, he might have the worst
No,
team.
he said that his team was awesome.
Did he?
Yeah, he said he was going to rule it.
My team is awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Except for Bob's team.
Bob's team sucks.
Yeah, I when I was going against Bob and beating the crap out of him, I was going to trash talk, and then he's like writing things about, I think my wife is going into labor. I'm like, I can't trash talk while your wife is having a baby.
That is true. Congratulations to Bob's family. They did have a baby boy. So.
Yay.
But yes, back to the trash talk, and screw you, Bob. I don't care if your team name is I Wrote a Treatment. Jeff, how you doing in that league?
I think I'm 2-2.
Yes, you're 2 games behind me.
Yes, yeah, I am 2 games behind
Yes,
you.
everybody is, actually.
Yeah,
At least 2.
yeah.
Except Bob Holt. He's at 4 games back.
But I only lost to you by 5 points.
Still 1.
Yeah.
Victory.
Yeah. And stupid Matt Ryan.
Second place is the first loser.
That's right.
Oh, good. I'm like in 4th place. so-
Unfortunately, I'm in 3 fantasy football leagues, and this is the one I'm doing best in, and there's no money to win.
No, but the bragging rights in this are going to be sweet.
Oh, they're going to be very sweet.
And yeah, right now you've got them. Oh, and I do want to say to Will, even though I know he doesn't listen to our podcast, I saw what you did there, Will, with the Monday night head coach there. I saw that.
I picked up a head coach last week too.
Oh, did you?
I picked up the Lions because I knew that Marvin Lewis was out because of a bye week.
Yeah.
I'm going to be dropping Detroit Lions head coach soon.
Well, because my head coach was on a bye last week too, and I was going against Pittsburgh Nerd, Sean over there in Pittsburgh Nerd, and his head coach was on a bye. And both of us, neither of us we had a lot of buys and no one wanted to cut anything. So we kind of didn't talk about it, but it looked like we mutually agreed that, okay, we'll just go without head coaches. And then I'm looking at it, I'm like, I might have a chance of winning this. He was beating me, and I'm like, if I get within 10 points by Monday night, or before the Monday night game, I might have to go ahead and pick up
a coach.
What's his name? Kansas City's coach was out there.
Andy Reid.
Yeah, and I'm like, if I'm within 10 points, it would behoove me to pick him up because he can get me 10 extra points. But I wasn't within 10 points, so I didn't. And I noticed then Will picked up Andy Reid pretty much to keep Ryan from getting him, because Ryan's coach is also on a bye and was within 10 points of striking him. So it's like, I think Sunday night Will picked up Andy Reid just so Ryan couldn't.
And I dropped Carson Palmer. You could have picked him up. Him and his shoulder injury.
Yeah, him and a shoulder injury where he's digressing in his injury here.
Well, I didn't realize I had that many Bengals until they went on bye.
Oh, yeah, your entire bench was on bye.
Yes, I had,
and you had to cut
Marvin Lewis, Jeremy Hill, Bengals defense, Andy Dalton, Giovanni Bernard.
and you also
Terrence
had
West.
Terrence West for the Browns, who was also on bye. And, yeah, you had Carson Palmer, whose team was on bye last week also.
Yes.
So your entire bench was on bye, and you still managed to put up like the best.
I'll tell you one thing,
week.
that one league, though, the one league that I run, that is an awful league.
It is an awful league. All 3 of us are in that one.
Yes, it is an awful.
Although Nick beat me last week in that league.
Just barely.
DeMarco Murray won that for you, and I thought Kansas City's defense is going to pull me through.
It's basically the league where you need one player to do well, and a kicker and a defense. That's all you need is one player and a kicker and defense.
Yeah, you had the one player who did well. I had Nick Foles get me -2 points.
I did think it was funny. Dipman got the second most points of 85, which is unheard of in that league, and still lost.
And still lost, yes.
So there you go. There's your football wrap-up of the week. Bad idea of the week, number 203, taunting a ghost or an evil spirit. Red room, over there.
Yeah, in the movies they never seem to
Kill, 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 kill.
Whenever they do taunt the evil spirits, they tend to be the first ones dead, don't
Yeah,
they?
you should not do that. And I got another one, too, for next time, so I got a couple good ones here.
All right,
not
wow.
to do. So there you go. There's your episode of the week. Roger says goodbye.
Goodbye.
Actually, we lied. We added a Q&A session with Jeff Morris about his book, Haunting of Ohio, and from the Miamitown Paranormal Festival. So we still have a little bit longer left on this episode, so enjoy.
All right. In the late 1800s, somewhere in Miamitown, no one's quite sure where, there was a house that was very haunted, and it was very violently haunted. This was the kind of haunting where the family who lived there would sit down to dinner and the dishes by themselves would lift off the table and fling themselves across the room and shatter on the opposite wall. People would be drugged down the stairs by their hair and be slapped around by these unseen forces, and all kinds of terrible things would happen in this house. And in the late 1800s, if you moved to Miamitown and you're having a house like this, you couldn't just move somewhere else. And when you moved here to Miamitown, you pretty much built your own house, so you didn't have the money or the resources to just build another one and move there. So if you had these terrible ghosts in your house, you were pretty much stuck with those ghosts. So the town, they knew about these ghosts here in the house, and they felt bad for this poor family who lived there. So they decided they'd come together and try to help this poor family out. So what they decided to do was hold a seance in the house. And they decided to hold the seance in the attic of the house, which was where most of the activity took place. And this wasn't like a crawl space type of attic. This was a nice attic with hardwood floors, and there was actually a fireplace there. So pretty much another story to the house. But they decided on Halloween night they'd all get together and hold this seance. So they all sit around a table, they light candles, they hold hands, and they try to communicate with whatever spirits were haunting this house. So hours pass and nothing's really happening, and more hours pass and still nothing's really happening. And by this time, most of the candles, they've burned out or they're about to burn out. And everybody looks up to the fireplace, and standing next to the fireplace is this old Indian woman. So they ask this Indian woman, the spirit of this Indian woman, why are you haunting this house so violently? Why are you so angry with this family who lives here? And the Indian woman says, I'm looking for my baby. So everyone who was holding this seance had heard this other piece of Miamitown folklore. What had happened was there was a pioneer man and an Indian woman who had gotten together, and they had had an affair, and out of this affair they had had a child. And back in those days it was unheard of that pioneers and Indians would get together and have children. So in order to save his own reputation, the pioneer kidnapped the child in the middle of the night, took it out into the woods, and killed it and buried it out there in a shallow grave. The Indian mother went out looking for the grave of her baby, was unable to find it, so ended up hanging herself from a tree. So everyone holding the seance assumed that this Indian mother was the same one from the story that they had all heard. So what they decided to do was they told her, go ahead and move on to the next life. Once you move on to the next life, you'll find your baby there. So the Indian mother agrees, and they stopped her and they said, one more thing. 1 year from tonight, on Halloween night, we're going to hold another seance. And we want you to come back, and we want you to tell us whether or not you were able to find your baby. So again, the Indian mother agrees, and about that time, the last candle flickers out. And by the time they can get any of their lanterns lit, the apparition has vanished. So the next year goes by, and the family in the house is finally happy. They're no longer plagued by these terrible ghosts who have been haunting this house so violently for the last however many years they had been experiencing that. But they were curious, and the rest of the town was curious what would happen that next Halloween when they held the seance and found out whether this Indian mother was able to find her child. So the next Halloween rolls around, they go back up to the attic, they light the candles, they sit around the table, they hold hands. And again, hours pass, nothing happens, more hours pass, and nothing happens. The candles have all burned out except one, and as that last candle is starting to flicker, they all look back up to the fireplace, and again they see the apparition of the Indian mother, but this time she's holding an infant child in her arms. So that's where the story ends, and I kind of like the story. It's as sad as parts of it are. Other parts are kind of happy at the end. And it kind of is a picture of the history of the area at around that time. No one's quite sure exactly where that ghost story took place, but there is a building across the street from this building. I believe it's Cade's Crossing Antiques now. But when the previous proprietor was setting it up as an antique store, she could see from the outside that there's 2 stories and an attic to the house. but she could find no way to get up into the attic of the house. No crawl space, no stairs, nothing of that kind, until one day she was setting up antiques and she saw on the wall what looked like the outline of stairs. Like there had been stairs there at one point, and dust had kind of gathered in the corners, and it was kind of discolored in the shape of stairs. So she called up her son and had her son bust out the wall to where those stairs appeared to be leading, and sure enough, there were stairs behind that. And sure enough, they led up to an attic that had nice hardwood floors, and there was actually a fireplace up there. So perhaps that building is the building from the Indian Mother story. But if that's the case, then why would you board up an attic that nice unless those hauntings started back up again? My name is Jeff Morris. I am an author. I started a ghost tour here in Miamitown in 2006 and have been running it since that time. I've been part of several paranormal groups. I was first part of a group called CAPER, Cincinnati Area Paranormal Existence Research. Currently I'm part of a group called Tri-State Paranormal and Oddities Observation Practitioners, TriPoop. I didn't come up with the name myself. Usually I get a bigger laugh when I say TriPoop. Oh well. And like I said, I've written several books. My first book was called Haunted Cincinnati in Southwest Ohio, which was more of a history book, and it had some ghost stories in it. And then I started doing a series of travel ghost books that tell you haunted locations in the target cities and how to find the ghosts there, the history behind the ghosts, and if you're allowed to go there after dark, and things like that. But I did Cincinnati Haunted Handbook, Nashville Haunted Handbook, Twin Cities Haunted Handbook, and most recently Chicago Haunted Handbook. What I'm going to be talking about today is what I've found a lot through all of my research and all the ghost stories that I've collected are that I've learned a lot about the history of the area where these ghosts are from the ghosts. A lot of times there'll be a ghost story, and the ghost story is really interesting, but it turns out that the history that the ghost is actually telling us is quite interesting as well, and I'm going to go over a few of those stories today from the Cincinnati area. And first I'll start by telling a little bit about when Cincinnati became Cincinnati itself. When Cincinnati was founded, there were some, I can't think of the word, plotters, people who organized and set up a city. The one who was setting up a place called North Bend. Are you familiar with North Bend, Ohio? It's not too far from here. But that was founded by a man named John Cleve Sims. And John Cleve Sims also founded a city called Losantoville, which means the area opposite the Licking River. And he loved North Bend. He thought that North Bend was the greatest place to have a city, and he thought that this would grow up to be the huge city in the area. He thought that this was the place where people would eventually settle, that this would become the big metropolis. It turned out that Losantoville changed its name to Cincinnati, and as we all know, North Bend is a small suburb, and Cincinnati is the big city in the area. But John Cleve Sims is actually buried in North Bend at a small little cemetery called Congress Green Cemetery. It's right by the grave of a president, President William Henry Harrison. So if you're down there, you can see a president's grave. It's actually real impressive, one of the most impressive that I've seen, and I've seen most of the president's graves. But it's a huge obelisk, probably 3 or 4 stories tall. But it's right there at Congress Green Cemetery, and John Cleve Sims is buried there. And a lot of people say that his ghost haunts the cemetery, maybe upset over his city, North Bend, not becoming the jewel of the Ohio that he had expected it to become. But there's another story that comes out of Congress Green Cemetery that's probably more likely the reason for the ghosts there at Congress Green Cemetery. Speaking about President William Henry Harrison, I'm going to talk about his son, who has the distinction of being the only man in the history of America whose father and son were both presidents of the United States. His name was John Scott Harrison. His dad was William Henry Harrison, and his son was Benjamin Harrison, later president of the United States. But when John Scott Harrison died, Benjamin Harrison and one of Benjamin Harrison's brothers were going to bury him, and they were going to bury him in Congress Green Cemetery. And as they were going to bury him in Congress Green Cemetery, they noticed that across the cemetery, on the opposite side that they were going to bury him, one of the graves had been dug up and the body had been stolen. And this was in the late 1800s, I know I wrote down 1878. And back in those days, a big thing, a big money-making scheme was a job called a resurrectionist, which is essentially a body snatcher, which you would steal bodies, and you would sell them to medical colleges who would pay a lot of money for these bodies. So they were upset that this body across the, actually a cousin of theirs, this body across the cemetery from their dad, John Scott Harrison, had been robbed. So they decided to take precautions burying John Scott Harrison. They buried him in a concrete crypt. They did not mark his grave because they didn't want anybody to know that he had been buried there. And then they left, and Benjamin Harrison went back to Indianapolis where he was doing political things. And Benjamin Harrison's brother decided that he'd go around Cincinnati trying to find out where the body that had been stolen from the cemetery had been taken, try to take the people to justice who had stolen that body. So, as he's doing that, he goes to the Cincinnati Medical College, which is today kind of turned into UC. But as he was there, he goes in and they were about to do an autopsy, or they were about to dissect a body that they had there. And to his horror, he realized that the body that they were about to dissect was the body of his father, John Scott Harrison, that they had taken all those precautions to protect. So, right before they cut him open, they were able to save the body, and they actually put him in the grave with William Henry Harrison to protect his body so that it did not get stolen in the future. But another reason that Congress Green Cemetery might be very, very haunted. There are a lot of the stories from Congress Green Cemetery are their voices, just the normal ghost stories. You hear voices, you hear footsteps, you feel uncomfortable, things like that. People have seen figures in Civil War dress, Civil War uniforms in Congress Green Cemetery. So I'm not sure where that comes from, but the cemetery itself is haunted, but on top of that, it does have that history to tell on top of it. Another interesting story that I heard is from the mid-1800s, or that I came across is from the mid-1800s. It's a place that they call Fiddler's Green Cemetery. And the story behind this is there was a man with the last name of Darby who worked with the Underground Railroad. And the story was that since Cincinnati was a free city and a free state, and Kentucky was a slave state at the time, Cincinnati was a hotbed for the Underground Railroad. So the issue was that the slaves who were escaping, they had to cross the Ohio River. That was the last border before they were in the free state. So in order to let the escaping slaves know when it was safe to cross the Ohio River, there was a man who worked with the Underground Railroad who would go on top of a hill that overlooked the Ohio River, and he would light a green lantern and he would play fiddle music whenever it was safe to cross the Ohio River. And when it wasn't, he would, I believe he'd light a different color lantern and not play the fiddle or something like that. But the point was he would light the green lantern and play the fiddle when it was safe to cross the Ohio River. So this went on for a while, and eventually Mr. Darby died, and he was buried up on the spot where he would play the fiddle and light the green lantern. Today, that's called the Darby Lee Historic Cemetery. It's kind of hard to find if you're at all familiar with Mount St. Joe. There's the big Mother House there, and there's a trail that goes from the Mother House back to the cemetery, or if you go down Bender Road, you guys don't look like you have any idea what I'm talking about, but there's a retirement village that if you park in the retirement village, there's a trail that goes back to the cemetery, and it's kind of overgrown, it's very small, it's very hard to find. But a lot of times, people who are there at night or even during the day, they'll see a green light just kind of floating in the middle of the cemetery, or or they will hear fiddle music, even though there's no one playing a fiddle. So, again, a story that has a historical story behind it, but at the same time it has that ghost story that goes with it. One of my favorite stories is about a cemetery in Northside, if you're familiar with where Northside is, called Wesleyan Cemetery. The story actually takes place downtown Cincinnati at a place called Front Street. And this was in 1900. In 1900, Front Street was the worst part of Cincinnati. That's where all the crime would take place. That's where all the criminals would live. There'd be bars that there would be bar fights at where people would get killed quite often. There'd be all kinds of terrible things that would happen there. And the people who lived in this area, they were the people who did not make much money. They couldn't afford to live anywhere else. And these were the slums, and the people who ran the buildings where they lived were the slum lords. In September of 1900, people in the area had started smelling a lot of gas, like natural gas, like there was some sort of gas leak somewhere. But of course, since this was the slums, no one's going to come and fix that. So that was a problem, but they figured that there was nothing that they could really do about it. Right there on Front Street, there was a place called the Salvation Army Orphanage. It wasn't really an orphanage, it was more of a daycare. When the people who worked, the mom and dad both had to work, or the people who lived there on Front Street, the mom and dad both had to work. So they had nobody to watch their children during the day. So what they did is they dropped them off at the Salvation Army Orphanage, and then after they were done working, they'd pick them up. On September 19th of 1900, suddenly something happened where that gas smell that they had been smelling, it ignited. And there was a big explosion on the bottom floor of the Salvation Army Orphanage, and it caught fire. All of the children were on the third floor of the orphanage, along with the workers there. So they were up there, but there was no way that they could get out. Back at this time, there were no fire escapes, and the only way out was down the stairs, and the stairs were covered by this fire, so there was really nowhere that they could go to get out of the building. But then something kind of amazing happened. All these people in the worst part of town, all these criminals, the people who society had forgotten, they decided they'd come together and they'd try to help these poor children out because they knew that they were in trouble. And in some cases they actually did. There were a couple of teenagers skipping school, juvenile delinquents, who decided to climb the building next door and jump over the alley to the roof of the building, and through the skylight in the upper floor, take a couple of the children out. They were able to save several of the children. Another person worked as a window washer, and he saved his family from the building next door, and then he actually climbed up the side of the building without any equipment or anything, and he managed to get over to the Salvation Army Orphanage, the third floor window, take out a couple of the children, and bring them back over to safety. There was one man, his name was James Harkins. He had hurt his leg. He had been a painter, but he had hurt his leg, so he had a bad limp, so he couldn't paint anymore. So he was at home, but he couldn't watch all of his children. So two of his children, he actually had dropped off at the Salvation Army Orphanage while his wife was at work. So he heard the explosion. He knew that there was an issue. He knew that it was where his children were. So he went to the Salvation Army Orphanage. He hobbled with his limp across the street into the front door where everybody had gathered by this time to watch the fire to see if there was anything that they could do, but there really wasn't anything that they could do because the fire was burning and they weren't willing to rush into the burning building. But James Harkins, he wasn't going to let the fire stop him, so he marched through the front door into the fire and started marching up the stairs. And he actually got halfway up when one of the people who was watching decided, hey, if this crippled guy can do this, I can go in and save some children too. But James Harkins stopped him and said, you need to get out of here, you're not going to make it. And the other guy left. He was badly burned, but he survived. But James Harkins got up to the third floor, he found his daughter Rhoda, and he decided to lay on top of her to try to protect her from the flames. About this time, the fire department finally showed up, threw a ladder up to the third floor window, and actually saved a couple more children. But when they went in, they saw James Harkins. He was too badly burned to help. And underneath him was Rhoda, his daughter, who was who was still alive, but she was badly burned and she was in bad shape. They rushed her to the hospital, but unfortunately it was too late. She did die in the hospital. The children who died in the Salvation Army orphanage, there were 13 of them. They were buried in the Wesleyan Cemetery in Northside. They were buried under a marker with a Salvation Army flag next to it. And the Wesleyan Cemetery is currently haunted. And it is haunted by children, ghost children. Most of the time, when the caretaker experiences these children, he'll hear laughing and giggling, and then he'll go out into his cemetery because it's closed and there shouldn't be anybody there, and he'll see children running behind headstones. And then he'll go look behind the headstone, and there'll be nobody there. And other times he'll just hear the laughing, and he'll go out, and there'll be nobody there. Other times, the caretaker will hear children screaming or crying, and he'll go out, and he won't be able to find them anywhere. So perhaps ghosts of these children who were buried there who died in that terrible fire in 1900. Another one of my favorite stories, and this is a really kind of a dark story. It's about a murder that happened, I just looked at it, I should know the date, in 1901 up in Mason. It was a woman named Rebecca McClung. She lived with her husband, John. John and Rebecca McClung lived in this house up on Main Street in Mason in 1901. And John was very protective, I guess, of Rebecca, to put it one way, but he would never let her out of the house. He got very jealous whenever anybody would look at her. He was very protective is a bad word to use, but very jealous of her at all times. She would oftentimes sit in the upstairs window and kind of look down at the street, and that's the only time anybody in the town would really ever see her. One day in 1901, people heard screams, a woman screaming coming from the house, and they all rushed in to help. And as they rushed in, they saw John standing over the body of Rebecca, and he was holding a chunk of firewood which had been used to bludgeon her to death. So, of course, everybody thinks that John McClung killed his wife. So they go to court. He's accused of murder, and somehow he gets off. He is acquitted, and he is not convicted of the murder of his wife. His wife's buried right down the street at the Rose Hill Cemetery. And 3 years later, John McClung dies. And since he was acquitted of her murder, he is buried in the family plot right next to her. So even though everyone knows that he killed her, they are buried right next to each other in Rose Hill Cemetery. The McClung House and Rose Hill Cemetery are both haunted by the ghost of Rebecca McClung. The McClung House today, I believe, is like a Thai restaurant. It's changed a few times. For the longest time, it was a restaurant called Chocolate Morel, and that's when the ghost stories became most prevalent, was when it was Chocolate Morel. Things would move in the basement a lot. There'd be blood stains that they couldn't get rid of at the bottom of the stairs where she was killed. People would see a woman in the upstairs window where she would always sit looking down, even though there was no one in the building. Down the street at Rose Hill Cemetery, people would see a woman, or the caretaker will see a woman long after close, walking through the cemetery in a white dress, and he goes and he looks, and she's nowhere to be found. So, again, perhaps the ghost of Rebecca McClung, upset that she's buried next to her murderer, even though everyone knows that she was the one, or he was the one, to have killed her. Next story I have is, not a lot of people know that there was a tuberculosis hospital right here in the Cincinnati area called the Dunham Tuberculosis Hospital. If anyone's familiar at all with the West Side, there's a park there now. It's called Dunham Park. But back in the early 1900s, and late 1800s, it was a place called the Dunham Tuberculosis Hospital. And tuberculosis was a terrible disease in those days, and a lot of people died from that disease, and a lot of people died right there at that hospital, right there where that park is today. Today, in the park, people will hear coughing coming from no discernible source. And that matches with the history because tuberculosis, that causes coughing. That's a disease of the respiratory system. So a lot of people who have that disease coughed a lot, so a lot of people in that area had coughed in the past. Right next to the tuberculosis hospital, a lot of the people who died at the tuberculosis hospital, they couldn't afford a nice burial. They couldn't afford a nice place to be buried. So there was a potter's field, a pauper's cemetery right next to it that a lot of them ended up being buried at. And overall, probably 10,000 people, maybe more, were buried in this little potter's field. In the 1980s, Mayor Charlie Lucan of Cincinnati decided that he didn't want to keep paying for the upkeep of this potter's field because people weren't being buried there anymore, and it was costing the city money to keep doing upkeep on this. So he decided to stop upkeep. And if you go there today, it looks like a forest. It's very hard to tell that there was ever a cemetery there. And it's very overgrown. I've been there a few times. You have to actually crawl at times to get into the forest because it's so overgrown, and all the vines and the branches and stuff, you have to get down on your hands and knees to get past it. But kind of sad for all those people who were buried in this area. And it's very hard to find any markers there. The Price Hill Historical Society did come, and they did put a few markers there. So there are a few markers, but a lot of them just say unknown male, and they have a number or something like that. But in this forest, in the Potter's Field there in Price Hill, there are a lot of ghost stories about people will feel these dark presences. They'll feel uncomfortable. They'll see shadowy figures moving throughout the forest, and then they can't find where that person went. They'll hear voices even though there's no one there, and all kinds of things like that. Another thing that not a lot of people know about. Another thing that not a lot of people know about was that Cincinnati started building a subway system. There was actually going to be a subway, an underground train that ran through Cincinnati. So they actually started building it. They actually dug the tunnels. They actually made the tunnels. And they started this in 1920, and then 1929 the Depression hit. And when the Depression hit, they really couldn't afford to put a subway in Cincinnati, and they just dropped the project entirely, and they didn't finish it. So there are still those tunnels that run underneath Cincinnati at this time. The tunnels themselves, they are haunted. A lot of times people will, again, hear voices, see shadowy figures. Probably the most often seen ghost, or the most often told ghost story in the Cincinnati subway tunnels is people will see what looks like a man hanging by his neck, swinging back and forth down one of the tunnels, and then when they get down to where this person is, there's nothing there at all. The story behind that is the man whose idea of the Cincinnati subway was he hung himself in the tunnels after the project went bust in 1929. I found no historical evidence to back that up, but it's the story that goes with it. But again, we have subway tunnels in Cincinnati, and they are currently empty and currently filled with ghosts, apparently. I will end before questions with one more story about Miamitown. I like telling Miamitown stories. I run the ghost tour here. And probably my favorite story is about the Miamitown Bridge. The Miamitown Bridge is actually the fourth bridge to span that part of the Great Miami River. First bridge was an old covered bridge. It was a toll bridge in the mid-1800s. What happened to that one was in 1863, a group of Confederate cavalrymen, known as Morgan's Raiders, invaded Indiana, and they were going to cross into Ohio, here near Miamitown. But General Burnside, who was defending Cincinnati at the time, did not want them crossing that far south, so he ordered that the bridge be destroyed. So the first Miamitown Bridge was destroyed by Union forces during the Civil War in 1863. For a while, there was no bridge that crossed the Great Miami River. They used a ferry to cross the river. That all ended in 1897 when they built a new bridge. I believe there's some pictures of it upstairs in the Historical Society where all the vendors are. But it was kind of a steel monstrosity of a bridge. It had big steel girders and steel decking. And there were a couple of fatalities that occurred on that bridge. Probably my favorite fatality that occurred on the bridge, and I know it's terrible to say, but they were doing construction on the bridge. They had actually taken off the entire decking of the bridge. There was no bottom to the bridge. And there was a man who got really, really drunk down at the Flicker Inn, which was an old bar that used to be down on Harrison Avenue. And he decided it'd be a great idea to drive home towards Miamitown. So he starts driving home towards Miamitown. He doesn't realize that the bridge is out. And he starts to drive across the bridge. And remarkably, there were these two I-beams that went across the span. There was no decking, but these two kind of I-beams, like two balance beams. In his car, tires go right on those two I-beams, and he makes it about halfway across before one of his tires slips off, and he gets stuck there in the middle of the bridge. So he still has no idea what's going on. So he opens up his car door and steps out, and of course there's no bottom to the bridge. He falls into the river and drowns. Eventually they decided that that big steel monstrosity of a bridge was, I guess, too much of an eyesore. They wanted Harrison Avenue to just look like it continued, so they decided that they'd build the overpass that's there today. But since there's so much traffic that goes up and down Harrison Avenue there, they couldn't just close it down while they tore down the old bridge and built the new bridge. So what they decided to do was build a temporary bridge to carry traffic while they tore down the old bridge and built the new bridge. And this was in 1989. In May of 1989, there had been a lot of rainstorms, so the Great Miami River, the level was quite high at that time. And there was a lot of debris in the river. The temporary bridge was actually held up by these big wooden pylons that went all the way down to the riverbed. And all this debris was hitting those pylons, and the engineer who was working on the temporary bridge and the new bridge, he called the mayor of Whitewater Township, and he said, "I'm not sure how safe this bridge is. You might want to shut it down." So right away, the mayor of Whitewater Township called the sheriff here in Miamitown, who, as I heard it, was right at the fire station, which is right here, I guess. We're at the fire station, right where we are. So less than a quarter mile down the road to the bridge. So right away, the sheriff grabs the barricades, starts heading down to the bridge. But on the way, he gets a call saying it's too late. The bridge has already collapsed. By 26 p.m. on May 26th of 1989, the Miamitown Bridge collapsed. If you look in the history books, it'll tell you that there was one car on the bridge at the time of the collapse. There were two people in the car. Both people died in the collapse. But if you talk to anybody who saw the bridge collapse, they will tell you that there was also a red truck on the bridge at the time of the collapse. No one ever reported a red truck missing. No one ever found a red truck when they dredged the riverbed. Eventually, they just kind of assumed that there wasn't really a red truck. But the bridge itself is haunted. It's haunted by this white glowing specter, this white glowing apparition that always starts on the opposite side of the Great Miami River and starts walking across the bridge slowly towards this side. It starts to slowly dissipate as it makes it over towards the Miamitown side. It never makes it all the way across without completely vanishing. Old Indian legend says that spirits can't cross water. So perhaps this is a ghost of one of the Shawnee who used to inhabit this area. Perhaps this is a ghost of one of the people who died during that second bridge, or one of the two people who died in the bridge collapse in 1989. But the general consensus about who this ghost is this is the ghost of whoever it was who was driving that red truck, who everybody saw go down with the bridge, but who to this day it isn't confirmed did actually go down with the bridge. So that's the end of my presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
You are now leading the world of Musings of a Geek podcast network. Stay geeky, my friends.